Imagine being a teenager in Puritan Massachusetts, a world of strict rules, harsh punishments, and sermons about eternal damnation. A world where smiling at the wrong time could be seen as a sin. Now imagine of being accused of being besties with the devil. That's the life of Abigail Hobbs, one of the youngest and most defiant people caught up in the Salem Witch Trials. Abigail Hobbs was born around 1680, probably in Topsfield, Massachusetts. She wasn't from Salem's powerful or respected families. The Hobbs already had a bit of a reputation. Her parents, William and Deliverance Hobbs, were known as being quarrelsome and, let's just say, not great at keeping the peace. They already been involved in a few land disputes and petty fights before Salem even exploded into chaos. But here's where things get juicy. Abigail wasn't your typical Puritan teen. While most girls at her age were learning to sew and pray, Abigail was known to wander the woods, talk back to elders, and according to locals, say things that would make Cotton Mathers faint. People whispered that Abigail laughed at the devil, literally. She didn't seem afraid of him at all. And in Puritan New England, that was about the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. By 1692, the witchcraft hysteria had completely taken over Salem Village. People were accusing their neighbors, their friends, and sometimes their own family members. And one spring day, 14-year-old Abigail Hobbs was dragged into the madness. She was accused of witchcraft, and not by strangers, but by the same circle of young girls who had been afflicted by the so-called witches. The ones who screamed, convulsed, and pointed fingers in the courtroom. But unlike most of the accused, Abigail didn't tremble. She didn't cry or plead for her life. She admitted to witchcraft. Just like that. And not only did she admit it, she bragged about it. According to the records from her examinations, when the magistrates asked if she had made a pact with the devil, she calmly said yes. She told them that she had spoken with the devil in the woods and that she had promised herself to him. But then she added something that no one expected. She said she had repented. So now the judges were confused. She admitted to witchcraft, but also said that she turned back to God. And that's when things got even more shocking. Abigail didn't stop there. She started naming names. She accused others in Salem Village, even some respected townspeople. She pointed to Reverend George Burroughs. Yes, the same man who was once minister in Salem, and claimed he was working with the devil too. And because the hysteria was so out of control, her accusations carried weight. And at this point, Abigail was like a teenage girl who went from being feared to being listened to. The courts used her testimony as evidence against others, meaning her confession helped send people to their deaths. But was Abigail actually possessed? Or was she just a clever survivor who realized that admitting guilt could save her life? Let's be real. The girl knew how to play the system. Because here's the wild part. Abigail Hobbs did not hang. Unlike so many others who denied the charges and were executed, Abigail was spared. In fact, her cooperation with the court likely saved both her life and her parents' life. Deliverance and William Hobbs were also accused of witchcraft, but they survived the trials too. All three of them were eventually released from jail. Now picture it. A teenage girl sitting in the dank, cold Salem jail, surrounded by women crying and praying, and she's just watching. She had seen others dragged to the gallows, but she kept calm. She didn't fight the system, she worked it. After the trials finally ended and the hysteria faded, Abigail and her family left Salem. Historians think that they probably returned to Topsfield or moved somewhere quieter to start over. But after that, Abigail disappears from the record completely. No one knows what happened to her, whether she lived to be old or died young. She could have married, changed her name, and lived the rest of her life pretending Salem never happened. Or maybe she never really escaped the shadows of what she did. Because imagine living your whole life knowing you confessed to witchcraft, even if you didn't believe it. And you sent others to their deaths because of your confession. The truth is, Abigail Hobbs' story gives us something most of the others don't, a glimpse of rebellion. She wasn't just a victim, she was a fighter. or at least a survivor who refused to fit the mold of a quiet, submissive Puritan girl. And maybe that's what scared Salem the most, not her supposed witchcraft, but her power, her boldness, her refusal to be afraid of the devil, or of men who thought that they spoke for God. And that's the story of Abigail Hobbs, the teenage girl who laughed at the devil and lived to tell the tale. If you like this story, don't forget to tap the heart, share it with your fellow history lovers, and follow Think Snack for more twisted true stories from the Salem Witch Trials and beyond. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Abigail really believed she had made a deal with the devil? Or is she just a smart girl trying to survive a world gone mad? I'd love to hear what you think. All right, until later, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.